It is said that in times of peril, human beings can access strength that is often referred to as superhuman, that a relatively small man could push an 800-pound boulder or a rock off of himself with one arm on the edge of a cliff, whilst near the edge of a precipice, under the circumstances that his life was in danger, and though this strength could hurt him, that presumably some part of him decides it's worth the risk and permits this use of strength. Propose that it wasn't only muscles, but that the sort of psychological commitment to, let's say, acting, for instance, that the psychotic smiling eyes, if you've heard of that, there are certain things that are very rare for human beings to be able to do. Let's say that there are many artifacts like that in the human being, the human capabilities that we do not access because it involves tapping into a part of our psyche that is dangerous for us to access. We could lose our minds doing this, and that in order to do that, that requires a very specific type of environment. In the case of mental commitment to a role, that it requires that situation that would evoke that superhuman mental commitment to that role would require an inhuman level of emotional support. That if you were some very special person and an entire world of people treated you like a Kumari goddess your whole life, that maybe you might have a chance. All right. Imagine now a young Bruce Wayne who becomes Batman, and he's training now, in the process of training to become the best. He wants to be capable of fighting any enemy, and he's now feeling the weight of his task. He's feeling the limitations of being one man trying to fight an enemy that seems more ancient and more powerful than any one human being could ever hope to fight, crime itself. And he's there kneeling somewhere where he was training, and he's feeling exhausted mentally, physically, in every way. And the combination of that psychological and mental and physical and flesh exhaustion of the flesh and his training, the Bruce Lee not quite dreaming, not quite waking mindset that he had trained himself to use in the process of articulating fighting prowess abilities and accomplishing progress in the field of combat and goodness knows what else. That the combination of those two, mental exhaustion and Bruce Lee mental state trickery, had put him in this place where dreams could thrive in his waking mind, where where there was now suddenly enough focus remaining in his, that some part of him fell asleep just enough that there was enough focus remaining in his waking mind to leave him in more so in the mood for the experience of life, that his mental frame of reference just found the money in its budget for its first screen filter. Now you, probably in the case of Bruce Wayne, a dark one, but now you can start making good movies, or at least slightly better movies. Though the surrealness from the dreams that you can hang on the walls as if of the carnage of perception that contribute to the parts of him that fall asleep just within the range that is required for what this is referring to, is the inability to suspend disbelief. So now, and then a bat shows up. And Batman now, or Bruce Wayne now in this position where he's able to keep one foot in reality, where he accidentally stumbled into this position where he's this psychological twister where now he has one foot in reality and the rest in a dream, where that seems to have just come true, where this bat has now become a sign that something more than us, flawed human beings, is on his side, where something greater than the humanity he has lost faith in, or had lost faith in at the age of 8, or however old he was, just said, "Go on, I've got you." And then he could believe. And then he found the crucible steel of emotional support. The ancient Nordic tribesmen of his soul just found crucible steel, emotional support, crucible steel, and then could reach the level of psychological commitment required to establish or attain the persona of the Batman. Alfred Pennyworth once said that the measure of a man is not his strength, his wit, or his tools, but the allies he makes along the way. The measure of a man, which means that what is worthwhile about you comes from the people around you, which means if everyone around you decides that you are less, then you are. If you are different, you will never measure up. For what was valuable about your life was put in the hands of other people who would inevitably betray you. People very often like to say that living without your parents is painful, but I don't think it's painful. It's more that it's as if the movie of your life is missing characters and no longer works. It is no longer a good movie, and you try to spruce it up with expletives and nudity, things that everyone knows works, but that no one would use this much of if they had quality writing and direction. And you end up making Aqua Teen Hunger Force. But it's yours, and worked when nothing else did. And you don't give it up for anyone, I say. Go down flipping the world off the bird. Well, pardon me, but I don't feel well enough to be surrendering control. Psyche was supposed to be a woman who is more beautiful than the goddess of beauty Aphrodite. In Apotheon, there is a text that this assumes references some ancient Greek script that suggests that Hera was unmatched in beauty, which means, at least on Olympus at the time, or Emphyleon in the God-con, she is the most beautiful. Psyche is more beautiful than Aphrodite, and therefore this had to be able to, within this being's margin of skill, or within this person's ability to generate disparities in its skill in generating pulchritude of a being that this sculpts, this must one-up Aphrodite, but then leave enough room for Hera. So who else do you choose but Tara Strong? Now, why did I do this? I originally was going to choose another photograph. It was a picture or a drawing of some sort, but that was this thought that because it was more of a cartoon, I wouldn't be able to sculpt it very well into a sculpture, and that even if this could, it would look a bit too much like Nisera Rama, who is the mother of Jesus. I didn't want them to look too similar. In addition, that's the only angle that I can get of that particular portrayal of the goddess Psyche. I need lots of angles, and Tara Strong had that type of pictures of that variety available, so Tara Strong won out, as you do when you are surnamed Strong. Though those weren't the only reasons. This also chose Tara Strong because of the spirit that was contributed to the Fairly Odd Parents, that this also associates with Hermes, or Ame, in the God-con is his name. The peculiar tone of the Fairly Odd Parents is derived from this Southern Irish, very light-colored white houses in the heat moved over to California, subtext of the entertainment industry, the soap opera actors, so to speak, who are women, generally speaking. If you are a male soap opera actor, you are a woman. And so a group of women convened and created this program that shows that these are people who worked as soap opera actors, or who were enough like them to be selected to join the social group of the people who that specific category of the entertainment industry consists of, who lived in or hailed from a suburban household, and are boys. What? They made this program about phlegm and comic books, toys, action figures, the girl who's too good for you, and they got it right. What kind of black magic? Well, how do you know all this? Timmy Turner is played by a woman, and that might be the only instance of that in the show's cast, But it might as well not be, and it would be one thing if Tara Strong were this cartoonish or boyish lady, but she's like the most woman of all the women. And she does this for a job. Which of course suggests or makes the otherwise foreboding or insidious implication that she can turn this on and off. Tara Strong is a mental spy. She knows way too much and has to be stopped. In the unholy name of and in the words of Filthy Frank, it's time to stop. It's time to stop. You guys need to stop. Gee whiz, I hope she's not watching this, but if she is, stop it. Stop it. God darn it, you gotta stop this bullshit. In all fairness, I'm not actually certain what I'm asking her to stop, but I bet you she knows. Stop it. This had a lucid dream once where this was in the upper balcony of an elaborate theater with Dionysus, Apollo, and Achilles. And in the process of the suspects mocking Apollo, Dionysus said that this had to read very strange subtitles. There were subtitles in this dream. And you can read in dreams. The letters are strangely formed. They sort of look like the security code when they ask you to copy and type that into a dialogue field, and they're all twisty and strange, but these were compressed, very particular. Regardless, but what this managed to read is that Dionysus said that an artist, in the process of mocking Apollo, said that an artist or a great artist is someone who is sensitive enough to be present in all of the realms of the mind and soul along each of the walks of life, enough to take a good enough look at it to paint a portrait of all of these realms so that everyone else can remember them. And while everyone else was in art school staring at some buff naked man attempting to pour what little they had in their heart out onto an easel, Tara Strong was there skulking in the shadows, standing in the corner with this deranged look, with the demented zest of an intense Japanese man. But I guess it's whatever she's doing, it's working. She's out there giving the collective human consciousness memory. For the record, I'm sure that Tara Strong is a perfectly normal, perfectly rational, responsible, contributing member to her community, to society, and the world at large, but I can't shake the feeling that something's wrong with her. I can't shake it. I can't just harder to shake than a cocaine addiction. I got a dog, I got a monkey on my back, and his name is Tara Strong. When the monkey first arrived here, its name was Bobo's, but I had its name legally changed to Tara Strong, which is easier than you might think. That's why I named a monkey. In summation, the reason why I picked Tara Strong, in addition to all of those other reasons, is because she is cute and a bit cuckoo. I could have just said that, but it needed to be said. It needed to be said. There was a human convict that was featured in the film ordained Fear of the Number 13, and he claimed that time could be a blisteringly long thing, but then takes leaps. As if it almost seems that time got tired, that you used up all your energy perceiving more time here, and then it has to let go elsewhere. If that is the case, is it possible that time doth not fly when we are having fun, but instead when we stop paying attention to it? Could the difference between living to the age of 24 and living 1,000 years just be a matter of training your psychic butthole to clench around the chronometric frame of reference within the annals of your mind? To the point that concentrating a little harder becomes normal, as Goku, in a way similar to how Goku permanently or remained a Super Saiyan consistently after he emerged from the hyperbolic time chamber during the Cell Saga of Dragon Ball Z? Maybe. You be the judge. So that's how the hyperbolic time chamber works. But then who's paying for this? Where does time therefore have to leap or be taken away from? Whose mind, whose consciousness? This only raises further questions. Propose that the ground and the environment beneath and around you were deconstructed and moved elsewhere. Is location all a matter of landmarks? If what you prefer to be near has been moved away, then you are away from that location? Or are you in one location regardless of what your surroundings are? Have you really moved, or has just a bunch of stuff moved? If we don't quite feel ourselves today, are we really becoming a new person? Is it true indeed that the relativity of the soul is what we call identity? You be the judge. Because I'm not doing it. You want me to judge everything? No. You do it. Regardless of where in the heart and soul that you go, if there is meaning to be found there, regardless of how difficult it was to get there, someone has been there before, and even if they haven't, they might as well have been. Humanity may create new shapes from the dirt, but not from the mind. In the God Con, there was a tale where the sun god Apollo was doing battle with the half-Asgardian Utan Scourge from Marvel Comics. And Scourge wielded an enchanted blade paralleling those of the Norse giants or the Asgardian gods, possibly a composite. And during this battle, the blade had injured or wounded Apollo, and though the battle ended in a tie, in a stalemate, the blade managed to not only wound Apollo's flesh, but wound his spirit in a way. It left his heart cold and numb. And Apollo, being a god of the sun, many of his mental powers relied on sensitivity, on activity, and retrieving information and using them to build ideas, battle tactics, strategy, momentum, in a way, the acute dance moves that carry momentum. And without that sensitivity, it cost him in battle. That was why Scourge did it. Scourge was a big, large, heavy opponent, and Apollo was small and quick, and so that was a necessary tactic. However, when the battle was over, Apollo, realizing this about his heart, went to his son Orpheus and asked him to regale him with the most beautiful poems and musical poems that he could to revitalize his spirit. But nothing happened. And the reason why this is because the bitter chill that encroached upon and encased his heart, was one that was defensive. It was one as if contoured by Scourge's spirit himself. He was someone who shut out the world, who did things by his own terms and never let anyone in, and indeed his heart was stolen by the Enchantress, an Asgardian, which affected the magic that came from Scourge. It influenced it to become not only cold, but defensively cold. It was a cold rejection to defend from being affected by the world, and was specifically made to keep other people out. Not knowing what to do, he turned to Psyche, goddess of the soul, and Psyche instructed Apollo to look upon his old music, or look upon himself playing his old music. And so he did. And seeing how far that he had progressed from them had embarrassed him. Being embarrassed by himself allowed his heart to be warmed from within, and its consistent, gentle thawing eventually broke the curse, and Apollo was restored. In the God Con, as in ancient legend, Psyche and Aphrodite were bitter rivals. In the God Con, though Psyche did not like Aphrodite nor agree with her reign over the cosmos, she did not want Aphrodite slain or wiped from existence, which is what Barbario ended up doing toward the beginning of the Barbarianic War. She played a part in the capture of the magic dragon, during so to speak, during the hedonic incident, which immediately preceded the Barbarianic Wars, where Psyche agreed to help Barbario to overthrow Aphrodite in exchange for an opportunity to take some part in the production or the development of the new Omniverse. Though Barbario was always dubious of and had great animosity towards Psyche because of her being enraddled with even more beauty, female beauty, than Aphrodite, and subsequently its morbid and egregious, wicked, wretched, obscene, tumultuous, the depraved and ruthless, unscrupulous perversion of the human spirit. Psyche was not exactly Athena, who agreed with Barbario's principles but not his execution, and initially aided Amphilydion, or the Olympians, to resist Barbario's conquest, but ultimately surrendered to him toward the end of the Barbarianic Wars. Whereas that Psyche, who did not oppose women, believed in women, believed in lust, believed in beauty, just not as Aphrodite did, to use it as a weapon to the degree that Aphrodite subjugated mortal kind to it, but aided Barbario from the very beginning and slowly tried to oppose him during the process in a series of delicate political countermeasures. Psyche was the only god to attempt to destroy a steeple and succeed, and the one she ended up destroying was the steeple of maturity. However, due to the way that she did this, Barbario was able to reconstruct it, though was not threatened to a degree that he would consider this betrayal. Psyche wanted to convince Barbario that surrender didn't have to be something that encroached upon him, didn't have to be something that he couldn't live with, if there was trust in the universe, if that finally there was an opportunity to create a world where trust could survive, and that could be a game changer for everything that Barbario knew and despised. But, of course, for good reason, Barbario did not trust anyone. Barbario had been a god who was punished as a child with perpetual torment and rape and things that are beyond understanding, and he, even more so than his brother Jesus, had difficulty with control and powerlessness, and that's saying something. Psyche and Barbario once walked from the Villa-Lobos to this beach where the sky was the early morning twilight, blue sort of sky, and there was something a cross between a wasp's nest and Yoda's hut on a cliffside just beyond the small beachhead peninsula that they were walking upon, and there was a small fire or something within it that seemed that was lighting it from within a small portal or opening in the side of it. Barbario looks back to the shore, and Psyche tells Barbario that the comfort of the familiar that is attributed to one's means of paving one's way through the wilderness of life and the cosmos to a place of one's own, the mental bedrock of livelihood that avails the comfort of a world made right, comes with the cost of the confinement of the routine, that the power of the situation to liberate comes at the cost of safety and the safety and security one can find in life if there is no trust. Psyche was trying to sell Barbario the idea of using trust to hold on to the familiar in the face of the unknown, with the pretext of producing a sense of thriving despite insecurity that didn't depend upon the absence of codependence. Barbario did not decide whether or not that day he would accept that proposal, but sensing that Barbario would retreat, Psyche offered to play softball on the beach. So Barbario, Psyche, and Hedone played softball on that island peninsula beachhead. Psyche set out to create a pitch and settled for a memory. This is Psyche, goddess of the soul, And if you are willing to part with your money, this can continue to make these. This will leave a link in this video to where you may do that.